Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome. My name is Ekta Markulier. I'm the Executive Director of the Pikes Peak Small Business Development Center. We are proud to be every small business's first stop, whether they are starting or looking for strategic development to grow their existing business in the Pikes Peak region. I think many of you know that because there's a lot of familiar faces here today. The SBDC is privileged to have received a large grant from the Minority Business Office of Colorado to provide support for existing minority businesses. That's minority-owned, veteran-owned business, and women-owned businesses that are looking to grow their business with government contracting opportunities. A very specific grant to help our existing businesses grow in that area. We are partnered with an MOU statewide with Colorado PTAC. Dennis Casey, Executive Director, is here, so thank you for PTAC for partnering with the Minority Business Office and SBDCs across the state. Today we have a full afternoon of amazing presenters to help you navigate the next steps to your business success. I'd like to thank the Minority Business Office of Colorado for funding today's program. We love their money. Thank you, Rosie. It's a great program. And the Hispanic Business Council for co-hosting our event. Additionally, thank you to the Colorado Business Development Foundation for the partnership, and for some of you, the most important, GE Johnson, for sponsoring our happy hour at 4:30. Thank you, Stella. Where are you, Stella? And GE Johnson. Thank you to our exhibitor sponsor, Colorado Enterprise Fund, always a great partner of the SBDCs across Colorado. And of course, very important people I would like to recognize today are elected officials. It's really important for us, our elected officials are here to hear about the amazing growth of our minority businesses in our region and what we're doing to help grow those businesses. So thank you. And I would like to recognize Commissioner Lojinos Gonzalez Jr. Thank you for being here. Where are you? Thank you. Commissioner Holly Williams, our newest commissioner to El Paso County. Thank you for being here. City Councilwoman Yolanda Avila. City Councilman Andy Pico, and City Councilman Tom Strand. I don't know where Tom is. There's Tom. I think this has been the best representation of our elected officials at one of our events through 2018 and into 2019. So thank you for being here and helping us start off our year the way we are doing it. Okay, so a couple of admin things. Please be sure to sign up for our one-on-one consulting. One of the things we are proud to do at our events is to not only provide education for our businesses in our community, but to provide one-on-one consulting. So utilize that time with Andre Hargrave, who's over here on the left, and Corey Arcreis, over here, two of our Minority Business Office consultants. Additionally, Colorado PTAC is here, the Hispanic Business Council. There are a number of mentors here to help you with any of the questions that you have. Also, I would like to thank our staff. I'm up here and I'm talking, but nothing happens without the amazing staff that we have at our office. So I'd like to thank Becky, Dustin, and Brianne of the SBDC. Thank you so much for all your hard work. We love you. Anthony Perez and Joe Aldez of the Hispanic Business Council, thank you for all your work in supporting this event and co-hosting and making this event happen today. Next, quickly, not in your agenda, we're going off agenda a little bit, I'd like to introduce Rosie McDonough, Director of the Minority Business Office, for a few quick words.
Thank you, Ekta. We couldn't do this without Ekta and her team, that's for sure. Thank you guys for having us here. And Anthony Perez, who was always on the phone trying to, just get 15 minutes to get all the details nailed down. So a couple of things I want to make sure that you know. The Colorado Minority Business Office is here at the state level to support businesses that are owned by minority, by women, and by veterans. We provide no-cost consulting, and I also take Andre as one of our main consultants, senior consultants. I don't want to say senior because he's not really a senior, but very experienced consultant. And then we have another 3 people in Denver that can provide you with some of the consulting so you can start exploring government contracting, certifications for your company, and things like that. More importantly, I want to make sure that I invite you to this event. This is one of our main events throughout the year. The 2019 Advanced Colorado Procurement Expo. This year, we're heading to have about 900 people attend, all government agencies, small businesses, corporations, networking in a way to learn how to do business together. So please come on over. It's at the McNichol Civic Center on May 16. We have some of these little postcards at the table over there. So make sure you pick one. And if you want to be, or you or your organization or your company want to be an exhibitor, please let us know. I know that there's a cost to be an exhibitor. There's a lot of investment as a small business, but we can also create some scholarships for those of you that are very, very small and don't have a way to attend these events. So you don't only necessarily need to be an exhibitor, you can also be an attendee. You can check it out this first year and make sure that you bring your statement of capabilities and you get in front of some government agencies that will be looking forward to do business with you. Aside from this event, we also have, and I want to have Anthony, Stephen, and some other people. I don't think we have anybody else here. We have a Minority Business Advisory Council from the Governor's Office, and Stephen Trujillo from the Latino Chamber and Anthony Perez are members of this council. We created this year the first Governor's Minority Business Award. So this is going to be the first year we're going to do an award statewide, 4 regions in the state in 4 different categories: micro business, small business, medium, and large. So in our website, we have listed the application for that award. I want you to please go ahead, think about your favorite business or even your own business, and nominate yourselves. We want people from all over the state to be a recipient of this fantastic honor. If you see the requirements for that award, it's not necessarily businesses that are owned by minorities, but businesses that have made a huge difference in our communities. It could be a non-minority owned business, but that is hiring minorities. It could be that they are hiring women and all these types of things. So let us know if you have any questions. Ulises Fernandez and I are going to be at the table, so if you have any questions, please feel free to come on over and let us know. And thank you so very much, EICTA, again, and everybody that puts this together. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Again, I'm Lojinos Gonzalez, one of the El Paso County Commissioners. And on behalf of the county, I wanted to welcome you all here today and thank you for your participation. Thanks also to our sponsors who make this happen and our partners in putting this event together, including the Pikes Peak Small Business Development Center, which is part of El Paso County Economic Development, the Minority Business Office of Colorado, the Hispanic Business Council, or Concilio, and the Colorado Business Development Foundation. As a minority myself, I appreciate the great and hard work and success seen by our diverse community, but we can all still improve and do better. And the county is a partner in making this happen. From public health services, such as the opening of a WIC office in Southeast Colorado Springs, and other county services at satellite locations, we strive to expand access to all. Our specific support to small business, of course, is conducted within the SBDC office through their partnership with the Colorado Audit Minority-Owned Business Office and others. Today is but one example of their work, and they will provide additional stories today. Additional useful information can also be found of our work with the ChooseColorado.com Programs Initiatives Minority Business Office. Our County Economic Development Department also assists with similar endeavors. Through the CDBG program, we offer contractors working or bidding on CDBG projects special technical assistance in regard to registering as a Section 3 business, and always share SBDC and PTAC information and referrals with any minority or woman-owned business that we are working with. Also, through the administration of the Pikes Peak Enterprise Zone, the Economic Development Department continued to promote a business-friendly environment, encouraging income tax incentives that brought job opportunities and capital investment to our region. These results are from all businesses, not just minority and women, but many of these enterprise zones are in areas where diversity is high. And we also have the Pikes Peak Workforce Center, which does many things to help women-owned businesses and minority groups, including partnership with the Southern Colorado Women's Chamber of Commerce, partner with Southeast Rise, where there are a lot of minority-owned businesses in the southeast area of town. And they, of course, partner with the Pikes Peak Small Business Development Center. I, as a former member or board member of the Concilio, I'm also proud of our partnership with the county and the Colorado Springs Hispanic Business Council, and I'm very pleased with the work that Joe Aldez has been doing in helping improve this and sponsor these programs as well, so thank you. And as a result, the county work with many businesses that are minority-owned and women-owned, and all of our services are free. We strive to be great partners with you and with all our small businesses, and so today we ask you for your feedback and your ideas so that we can continue to improve and make this a greater community. Thanks again for your attendance today, and enjoy the rest of the summit.
Right, so good afternoon. It's afternoon, right? Yeah, we're safe? Somewhere? So good afternoon. We're excited to be here again for our second annual Minority Business Summit. Truly wouldn't happen without the belief and the support of all SBDC, as mentioned, and Ekta and Rosie's great team, partnerships with the Hispanic Business Council, and of course, G. Johnson giving us something to look forward to the end of the day. Where's Stella? Right in the center, there you go. But more importantly, it would not be a success again this year without all of you. It's always nice to come to an event like this and see familiar faces, but more importantly, to see new faces. Being business owners, as you know, it's always about making new connections. You don't want the same people in the room every day, correct? It's about growing. So I want to acknowledge all of you for being here today, because as I look out in the room, I see a group that I know is here for the right reason. You were not here and playing with the idea of maybe possibly attending because it was dictated by who's behind the podium. You did not make a decision whether you were going to come or not because you wanted to see who is in the room to be seen by who you wanted to be seen by. I hope that you're here because you believe that when we're talking about diversity and inclusion in minority businesses, that you see that as an important topic, and as a leader and as a business owner, that you want to know how I as an individual can learn how to take my business to the next level and also advance our community as a whole. Would I be correct in that assumption? Okay, I just want to make sure I was in the right room. So, you know, we are Olympic City, USA, and that's as diverse as it could possibly be. We know that Mayor Suthers always has his vision of our community being as beautiful, matching the beauty of our landscape, yes? The thing about that is if you look at that landscape that you and I appreciate every day is birthed out of diversity. The red rocks, the multiple shades of green, forestry, and of course, the purple majesty that the nation knows us for. Colorado Springs is a city with a growing population. We are on the rise. Last year, Michael B. Hancock was here and shared with us that research shows that our community will surpass Denver within the next 10 years. And with that growth in population, we do see increased growth in multicultural, multi-generational, multiracial community, as well as small minority businesses. And as we see that grow, just like in Denver, we can clearly say Olympic City, USA, like Denver, is open for business as well. Can we not? It's night and day over the last 6 years. We're going vertical. But with that, now is the time to be proactive in looking at where are we as a community? What policies can we put in place to support those small minority businesses? Not just putting policies in place and supporting them, but ensuring that we're helping advance those businesses to achieve success. And that starts with ideas like here. We need to learn how we as individuals and leaders can do our part to celebrate diversity and inclusion, not just encourage it. Yes? But see how developing the right mindset around diversity, inclusion, and equity will help transform our community so we can realize Mayor Suzzer's vision for our community to be beautiful inside and out for today and for the future. And I do not believe there is a better person to share with us how we can accomplish that than Chris Martinez. Chris Martinez is currently the executive director of HCC, Colorado's Diversity Leader, a nonprofit construction trade organization that works as a network connector for small and large business on public and private construction opportunities. Prior to HCC, Chris worked for Mayor Michael B. Hancock as a senior advisor for human rights and community planning agency for the city of Denver, where he served as a liaison from the mayor's office for Denver neighborhoods. He also worked in Denver's office for economic development, where he managed the small business development division. This is where he also oversaw the 2011 disparity study and implemented the current MWBE ordinance program that City of Denver and Denver County and all those living in those areas are benefiting from today. Chris was responsible for establishing the City and County of Denver's long-term strategies to include firms owned by racial, ethnic minorities and women, as well as locally owned small businesses in all capital improvement projects issued by the city and Denver International Airport. Prior to working in the city, Chris worked at the Federal Reserve Bank, where he helped financial institutions improve their operations. He has over 40 years of experience as a community, education, and political activist. He also has a long history of involvement with nonprofit, community, and civic organizations, as well as 8 years experience as a board member for the RT Regional Transportation District, 2 terms as chairman of the board. If you guys could please put your hands together and give a great Colorado Springs warm welcome to our keynote speaker and friend, Chris Martinez.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Colorado Springs is a fun place to be, and I'm really happy to be here today. Although I am happy it wasn't yesterday, because I'm not quite sure how many of you would be here, and I'm not sure I would have been here based on the traffic we had yesterday. Thank you for the nice introduction, Anthony. When you hear an introduction or a bio about yourself, and you keep thinking about who are they talking about, but when you get to the stage of life where I'm at, you start to think about at least there have been some accomplishments that people are talking about, and hopefully they're beneficial to others, and hopefully today's topic will be a little beneficial to you as well. I plan to spend some time in front of you talking about a few items that I hope that you find interesting. Small businesses, I'm sure that's something, a major topic today. A disparity study, and what is it? A small business certification, and it close with a high overview of the Colorado's economic outlook. First, let's start with an exercise that requires your participation. I want you to take one moment to think about something you own. Everybody owns something. Think about something you own and what comes to your mind. So somebody asks you that question, which is a good icebreaker at a lot of receptions. A lot of people have different answers. And so I'm going to ask you to look to one of your neighbors and share with them that one thing that you own. Go ahead. So good. It looks like all right. I know we're all proud of our ownership, and it looks like we did more than what exercises did. I appreciate that. Because the next part was going to be for a shy group was to share that with somebody else, but it looks like several of you already shared that across the table. And it's something that ownership is something to be proud of. Regardless of what it is, that ownership is something to be very proud of. I'm sure you found some of the responses very interesting. Some of the answers were non-tangible, such as your word, which is a major thing. Most people say, I own my word, if nothing else. But majority of times, the answers are something tangible. It could be something that you could touch and feel, whether it's a car, a home, or possibly a small business. As you can see, ownership can mean a lot of different things to different people. The one thing for certain is that when we talk about ownership, it brings happiness to us. As I watch this room, the volume just rise as there's more sharing of it, because ownership is something to be proud of. It's something that we smile about. And when we have true ownership, it's something we're always willing to talk about. Ownership is also a symbol of economic growth. There are times in our lives, hopefully like today, we own more than we did in the past. And that is a symbol of economic growth. And that is hopefully something everyone in here has. Ownership also gives power to individuals, a sense of accomplishment. And these are all good feelings, and they should be, because if you're a business owner, these are really important things that you should be talking about as an owner and feel that pride of having that, owning that company. As a business owner, I'd like to remind you, and I know it's been mentioned a couple times today, that you certainly play an important part of the economy locally, in our state, and nationally. And that is also something to be very proud of about. That sometimes we get reports and we don't realize the effect we have had on those particular reports. According to the 2019 Business Outlook report sponsored by the University of Colorado Leeds School of Business, majority of businesses in our state's economy are small businesses with 50 or fewer employees. In fact, the number of small businesses make up 88.6% of all wage and salary establishments in Colorado. Did you hear me? Almost 89% of all businesses in our state are small businesses. If you're a small business, that is something to be very proud of and something we should be hanging our head on. Colorado is not unique. Our numbers are very similar to what they are throughout the nation. So the backbone of our country's economy is our small businesses. In Colorado, small businesses represent 49.3% of all jobs. So nearly 50% of all individuals employed in Colorado work for a small business that employs 50 or less employees. Big, big, big part of our state. Since small businesses play such a major role in Colorado's economy, I believe they should be getting their fair share of government dollars spent, especially in procurement opportunities for goods and services and on construction-related projects. Let me ask these two questions. Do you believe that today small businesses face barriers in contracting with government entities? Do you believe minority and women-owned businesses face barriers in contracting with government entities? If you answered yes to one or both of these questions, then you believe there's already a disparity. And that's where disparity study comes into play. It helps us answer these questions with statistics, real numbers, so that we can find out if we should have a program to help eliminate this disparity. And we use those numbers in developing programs for government agencies. So what is a disparity study, you may ask? First, let me provide you some background so that we're all on the same page and have the same understanding. A disparity is when the availability of a certain groups, ethnic groups, exist and do not proportionally receive contracting opportunities as the majority of folks do. It also considers that businesses do exist in the disciplines being studied. So a disparity study, in my case, when I was with the city, was in construction and construction-related services. And what we found, basically, is that we had a disparity. The disparity study looks at it for us if there are firms in a discipline being underutilized with contracting opportunities with government agencies or government projects. If we find that there's a disparity for those groups in that particular discipline. As an example, let's use drywalling companies that exist here in Colorado. If our local market says there are 10% of all drywalling companies are owned by minority women-owned individuals, but receive less than 5% of all government contract opportunities, there is a disparity. And if you just do simple math, there's probably a little over 5% disparity in the dollars available or should be available to minority women-owned firms based on population numbers. That is just a simplified way of looking at it. Believe me, there are lots of other calculations, numbers, evaluations that go in it to determine whether there's a disparity in a study. We know just because the federal government already has such a program in place that is supported by federal courts. So the federal government already believes there's disparity and it exists on the national level. Women and minority-owned businesses have been and continue to be in disadvantage in getting contracts where federal dollars are being spent. Thus, the feds have a Disadvantaged Business Enterprise, DBE, program, where the DBE certification is required in order to compete for those jobs asking for those particular goal sets. When there are goals put on these projects, the DBE firms participate on these projects, looking for federal funding. When projects use federal dollars, even if it's only $1 on a multi-million-dollar project, they have to have a DBE goal. And that is in order to help remove the disparity that has been found. The disciplines, and I'll call them disciplines, and you will hear me refer to them as NICS codes, NICS, and I long forgot what that acronym actually stands for, but it divides, it's a code book that divides all the disciplines, drywalling, concrete, street paving, asphalt, all painting, different types of disciplines are all set up in the NICS codes, and it also covers in goods and services, so it's not just all construction. But any of the construction projects where the state of Colorado or local governments receive federal dollars for, they must have DBE goals on those projects. If the construction project is using only state revenue or local dollars, it does not require a DBE program or goals to be established. However, the Colorado Department of Transportation does have a small business program. It's called the ESB certification that is race neutral and can be added onto their transportation projects. So all of our transportation projects, as you see up and down the major highways that are run by CDOT, if the federal dollars are used for those projects, a DBE goal is put on it. If there are no federal dollars on there, CDOT can put an ESB goal on it, but doesn't have to put a goal at all for minority women-owned participation. So when it comes to local, state, county, and municipal dollars, federal courts require that a local disparity study has to be conducted to support any goals that an entity would put on projects to attract minority and women-owned businesses. Currently, the city of Denver, along with Denver Public Schools, are the only two local entities that I know of in Colorado that have conducted a disparity study. The city had theirs for the MWBE program in place for several years, and it was suspended in the early 2000s when it received a lawsuit challenging the MWBE program. However, the federal courts upheld the city's MWBE program and was put back in place in 2006. During that time, when there was not an MWBE program, the city established an SBE program, and we continue to run the SBE program, and that is a race-neutral gender program. So you have to qualify as a small business by SBA standards. The city's most recent disparity study is in its final stages. In 2011, I oversaw a disparity study the city conducted. At that time in Denver, we also included codes outside of construction. We wanted to expand our opportunities for minority women-owned businesses, and we added several codes in the purchasing and procurement of goods and services. It was done to increase the opportunities for NWBE certified firms for these types of contracts. Prior to that, those contracts did not require any minority women-owned participation on them to be released. In 2014, Denver Public Schools, and I'll refer to them as DPS, was getting a lot of attention from the construction community and the minority community that their program for minority women-owned firms were not getting their fair participation in construction contracts at DPS. DPS at the time did not have a study. They were trying to do it as the goodwill of the marketplace in getting that participation. What made it ironic is the majority of the students that attend Denver Public Schools were minorities, and yet their parents who owned the businesses were not getting contracts to build the buildings they were being schooled in Denver. This became an issue, and a very political issue. So with the support of the Denver Public Schools Board, they opted to have a disparity study conducted. Their timing was so good that they were able to tag on with the city's 2011 disparity study that I oversaw. I met with the school board members and encouraged them to not start the process from scratch, but to take the city's current disparity study and tag on their work with that. With that, they were able to save a lot of dollars because the disparity study can be expensive. And without the evidence, they would not be able to put a program together. So with DPS, all they had to do was have the contractor do an analysis of their current contracting practices and their participation levels. Once they did the analysis of what they were currently doing and what the disparity showed should be happening on availability, there became the disparity. And so then they put together programs that would allow for more participation on future contracts from minority women-owned businesses in Denver. And I shouldn't say just in Denver, because as I'll talk later, the contractors come from all over the state of Colorado to do that. Without that evidence of the disparity study on the specific genders and ethnic groups, a government entity cannot put goals on projects or procurements to rectify that disparity. Even if they currently believe a disparity exists, they cannot legally put goals on projects. We know that with the current disparity study the City of Denver has conducted and the ones in the past, the disparity study exists and continues to exist. The city's disparity study is based on the local market, and this you'll find interesting. In this case, it is the state of Colorado. Therefore, when a study is completed for the city, it basically is a statewide study. And what they're looking for are how many minority women-owned businesses are in the state, and also what work they do, disciplines. Just because you're a construction company doesn't mean you get every single discipline. You have to be able to show that you can do the work where you get certified for. But it takes into account the entire state. If the participation for the city during the study is below the capacity of what is determined by the disparity study, then that means the MWBE community is not getting their fair share. Therefore, you need to have a program that gives you legal ammunition to support a local MWBE program. The City of Denver and DPS both did this. It is important to know that a lot of times when we talk about local markets, we mean our local market. Colorado Springs means Colorado or El Paso County. Denver likes to think Denver or the metropolitan area. When we talk disparity study, it is the host state of Colorado is our local market. There are not lines drawn where construction firms can go and do work. And GE Johnson is here as sponsoring today, does a lot of work in Denver and probably Fort Collins, Greeley, Pueblo, probably even on the western slope, as an example that are not tied just to one geographical area. It is important because we know in Denver, and when I was doing certifications in our department, we had contractors come from all over the state. They come from Pueblo, Grand Junction, Fort Collins, Greeley, and including Colorado Springs. And they would do work for the city and for Denver International Airport once they were certified, or were eligible to, I should say. This is important because the first part of a disparity study for government agencies in the state of Colorado is already being completed multiple times. What isn't included in the city study is what the local entity's current procurement opportunities are, what their current numbers are as far as participation for minority women-owned businesses. That is a part every local government would need to continue to do that should they tack on to the city's disparity study. You also can start a disparity study from scratch. It just costs more, but know that the local market is the state. When DPS decided to do their disparity study, they went with the contractor that the city of Denver was using in 2011. Because of that, then all they had to do was do an analysis on their own contracting work and what opportunities were existing there. As I said earlier, this was a big savings to DPS because a disparity study can be very costly because they are interviewing minority women-owned businesses across the state. They are verifying that they truly are owned by minority women-owned businesses. They are going actually to see some sites. So they do a real intensive study on the number of businesses that are out there. So the bottom line is the disparity studies continue to find small minority women-owned businesses receive a disproportionate lower number of contracts on city construction, professional services projects, goods and services. Thus, we are able to continue with our MWBE program. The reason this is important, the city of Denver is just finishing a brand new disparity study. And if the state legislature passes a bill, which I believe they will be discussing this year, to conduct a disparity study for construction-related services and possibly goods and services, they might be able to do what DPS did 5 years ago and save some costs of a full-blown disparity study. They might be able to use the current disparity study that on our local market, which is the entire state, and only have the analysis done on current state contracting and what that looks like and participation levels. This is what I hope they do because I do believe that will pass. In order for any local entity, city, county, school district, to support any MWBE program, they would have to have a disparity study. And one has to be conducted every 5 to 7 years. And that is so that you can see if the practices you currently have put in place are making any difference or not, and whether you need to make changes to it. So it just doesn't sit on perpetuity. We must do a disparity study every 5 to 7 years. As I said, I'm sure we're going to hear a lot more about this issue about disparity studies if you have not heard about them before, because I know that topic is happening at the state capitol right now. As a matter of fact, a task force is being assembled that will meet on Thursday, which I've been invited to be part of to continue with this discussion. And I do believe that this year they will pass this initiative to have a disparity study. And the disparity study is important because it determines whether or not there truly exists a disparity. And there have been some studies done in this country where disparity does not exist for specific ethnic groups because they already are the majority and they're getting the contracting opportunities. So disparity studies always come back and say there's a disparity for minority women-owned businesses. And in Texas, I believe in Dallas, the Latino construction community was found where they no longer needed goals in order to participate in the projects equitably with the majority-owned firms. To compete for public contracting opportunities as MWBE or DBE, it does require that you become certified, which leads me to the next topic of certification. Currently, there are several certifications. DBE was Disadvantaged Business Enterprise projects, as I said earlier, using federal dollars on construction projects at airports, Fort Carson, transportation, federal courts, et cetera. Anybody uses federal dollars has a DBE go on them, or should. MWBE is a minority woman business enterprise, and I want to clarify, minority woman does not mean you have to be both. It could be a woman-owned, any ethnicity, or minority-owned business. And they're used for local dollars like the City of Denver and DPS. SBE, which is small business enterprise, race neutral for all business, race and gender neutral for all businesses. To have a program like this does not require a disparity study. You can put that in place because it's race neutral and gender neutral. CDOT has an ESB, as I said, the Emerging Small Business program already. Other government agencies use our directories in order to find contractors, but may not have their own programs, may not do their own certifications. In Colorado, there are 2 agencies that do certifications, the City of Denver and CDOT. CDOT currently does the DBE certification and the ESB certification, and their fee is free. The City of Denver does a certification, but it is a $250 cost to cover the cost of the application, mainly for the local program. Certification requires proof of ownership, and it must be a minority or a woman-owned business that they own over 50% of the business. So they could be in partners with a non-minority individual, but they must own over 50%, 50% plus. You will be asked to provide your tax records. They will do a site visit, and then they will ask you to show that prove that you can do the work on the disciplines that you want to be certified in. For example, if you're seeking concrete, the NICS codes, they're going to ask you, do you have a contract or have you had a contract pouring concrete? Explain to us how you do it. Do you have the equipment to do it? We want to see all those things in order to certify you. And that is all so there's a site visit. So if we have a Durango firm, we have to go to Durango and do a site visit to ensure they own the equipment. If it's a trucking firm, do you own your trucks? If you don't own your trucks, how are you going to get trucks? We must see those contracts before we can certify you as a trucking firm. We do that to ensure that none of the small businesses are a front. We want to make sure they're bona fide minority women-owned businesses that are going to be getting these contracts hopefully down the road. This process can take up to 6 weeks. So if you're looking at a project, start planning because it doesn't happen overnight. There are many firms in Colorado that are certified with the City of Denver and CDOT. The DBE certification is reciprocal between the 2 organizations. So if you certify with CDOT, you don't have to get the DBE with the city unless you want to use the city's programs for the MWBE, then you have to get certified with the city. Does that make sense? And most of the federal government agencies across the state use the DBE one. So when goals are put on projects, the projects also designate which program they're using, whether it's a DBE or MWBE, SBE program. Please also note that there are many other organizations that do certifications, but their certifications are not reciprocal with CDOT or the City of Denver. They may be used for other purposes. A little on the economic small business outlook. You heard earlier, Colorado's population is expected to continue to grow in 2019. However, at a slower rate than what it did in 2018, primarily from people moving to Colorado. And another reason why it's slowing down, this is an interesting fact. Nationally, births are at a 30-year low. From July 2017 to July 2018, we saw the lowest population growth in 70 years across this country, mainly due to births. However, in Colorado, we face a different situation. I'm sure that, as we mentioned earlier, El Paso County had the largest increase in population in the state in 2017, and will continue that through 2020, mainly from folks moving to Colorado and from the rural parts of Colorado moving to the Front Range. And El Paso County happens to be one of the areas where they like to resettle. One thing's for sure, as our population continues to grow, so do small businesses. With Colorado Springs being the fastest in employment growth in 2018, a growth of 5%, the 2019 growth is expected to be a little less. However, Colorado Springs area is yet expected to lead the state in growth. In 2019, all industries are expected to see some growth. I'd like to cite a few industries where the average pay grew in 2018 and is also expected to grow in 2019, just to give you an idea of some of those things. Average pay in construction in 2018 was $60,000, and that was a growth of 2.7 from the previous year. Management of companies and enterprises increased 13.6% to an average of about a little over $149,000 a year. Professional and technical services saw an increase of 14%, right at $95,000 a year, and we're expected to see some more growth in 2019. As you heard earlier, I am in the construction industry today, and this is the industry where I continue to see growth in 2019. Even with the labor shortage and the increased construction costs we find ourselves in today. Recently, an economist from American General Contractors, AGC, noted construction dollars in 2018 were $21.8 billion. And in 2019, we're going to see a 2.3% increase to $21.6 billion. You can see construction is an industry to be in. Based on the survey done by AGC, 4 out of 5 firms are expecting to add to their headcount in 2019. There will be more projects in 2019, construction projects, than there were in 2018. Public building, and this is the percentage of all of construction, will increase from 17% to 24%. Schools will see an increase of 11% due to the bond packages that were passed by the voters the past year. They'll go from 16% to 27%. That's 11% increase. Transportation, because some industries have to go down when you're talking construction, comparing one to another, is going to see a decline in 2019, going from 14% of all construction dollars to 11%. Partly due to no additional transportation funding was put in place this last election cycle or the last legislation session. However, this can change if we see some transportation dollars coming out of the state legislature this year, but those projects probably will not be put into place until 2020. We are expecting the Colorado construction industry to grow in 2019, and there'll be plenty of opportunities for small minority-owned firms. As I said earlier, should the state pass that state legislation for a disparity study in 2018, I don't believe we'll see any programs until late 2019 or early 2020. That's my best guess how long it'll take the state to set up the process and the program. And if in 2020, the economy should begin to slide, as many economists are predicting, although this morning's paper said business economists are not predicting a recession in 2019, but they would not comment on 2020. So a lot of folks are expecting 2020 to see some sliding backwards. The reason I mention that is because construction opportunities, goods and services, especially from government entities, will still be there in 2020 if we are facing a recession. And it is all very good industry to be into when we have an economic downturn, provided that you are certified. Other issues that affect small businesses is the widening labor shortage, which is being worsened by our current immigration policies. Interest rates, however, are good and is positive news for public entities with bond projects. They'll be able to bond for their projects at lower rates, and those projects will be taking place late 2019 and into 2020. Speaking of bonds, I pulled some numbers locally that I was able to find. The University of Colorado, Colorado Springs campus, their growth is going to be slowing down. However, they still have over $54 million in projects going on. The Harrison School District, too, is going to have $180 million in construction projects going on. And school districts statewide, there's $1.5 billion in construction projects on the drawing board right now. There's a lot of small projects being funded by local government entities here in the El Paso County as well, which is a great fit for businesses and subcontractors. Most of these entities do follow the state's procurement process. As I said earlier, when construction industry is doing well, it has a very positive effect on other small businesses, such as food outlets, clothing, printing, soft skills, marketing firms, etc. When construction does well, most all small businesses do well as well. So my advice for small businesses in 2019, now is the time for small businesses to be making their moves, positioning themselves to take advantage of our current economy and begin to expand in new areas in case of a recession in 2020. In any case, I'd like to encourage all small businesses to work with our state small business development centers, like the one here in El Paso County, and they were talked about earlier. If you're looking to start a business, they're a great resource. They can help you with your business plan, search for funding, location, make sure you get started on the right foot before you open up those doors. These offices also can help you plan and sustain your business, something that we forget about after we open up our doors. They can help you manage your growth or the downsizing of your business. Knowing that there's advice folks out there that can help you at all times is really important to take advantage of it. They're also a resource, since so many of us are baby boomers, to start thinking about retirement and what do you do with your business. It's a common fact that a mature business is much better than a startup business for the economy. And so mature businesses, when you get ready to retire, we don't want to see those doors close. We'd rather see you sell your business or even possibly sell your business to your employees. And with some planning ahead, that can be done, especially in construction and trade types of businesses. The employees more likely would rather buy into your company than have to start over somewhere else. So it's always a great opportunity when thinking about retirement and what's coming down for you. I would encourage you to visit with these consultants, especially the ones here in the El Paso Small Business Development Center. They're here to assist you and to help you in any way. There are other entities, other folks here that are always willing to assist you as well. Or join networking groups where you can learn more on how to network and get the best and most out of your small business. And it's vitally important. Our organization, we work with construction firms, the large and the small, and we provide networking opportunities where they can build relationships, because when you build relationships, it usually turns into contracts or doing business with them. And then that's what's important. In closing, I thank you for the opportunity to be here today, and that I hope that some part of today's message has had some meaning to you or your business. The one thing for sure we can walk away with is that small business plays a very important part in our state and local economy. I'm sure everyone in this room knows somebody who works for a small business or owns a small business in our community. Make sure you thank them for their positive impact in our state's economy. Thank you. With that, I think I have some time for some questions if you have any.
My name is George Otterby, World Demographic Research, and I'm what they call a service-disabled veteran-owned small business. We have access to government contracts. They have a goal for 3% contracting. It's for veterans. None of y'all qualify for this. But being that you're thinking that the disparity study is going to pass, the next step is developing a set-aside program. Are there any plans to do a set-aside program like the way the veterans set it up for 3% contracting?
So when it comes to minority women-owned businesses from the federal courts, you cannot do a set-aside. It's illegal to do so. So that's why you have to do a disparity study to show that there's a disparity that currently exists, and then you set goals. What makes goals work is if the government entity is aggressive in achieving those goals. Because we could put a goal on anything, doesn't mean we're going to achieve it. Is when you are aggressively pushing it. So typically the contracts from government entities are led, and I'm answering more than you asked, are led to a GC, a larger firm. That larger firm then does subcontracting with the smaller businesses. That's where the goal comes into play. So if you put a 20% goal on it, you're asking that GC to achieve that 20% goal. And if they aggressively are working at it, and the availability is out there in the marketplace, we should be able to reach that 20% goal. There are times when the disciplines just are not right. We don't have enough firms certified in those particular categories and may not be able to reach those goals. Excuse me. And that's why there are goals. And so that way you could also allow when you don't meet them. But if the government agencies are pushing hard for achievement, we find that we have greater success in doing that. The veterans issue is one that we have talked about several times, not just at the city, about how can we put a veterans program together and put goals on for veterans in there. A disparity study has not been done on that, but the federal government did do that, and that was, we were grateful for them doing that. On the veterans, for the veteran, you cannot do set-asides at all for minority women-owned businesses. Veterans, you can because the federal government put that into place. But we could not do that. A set-aside, we could put goals. We cannot do a set-aside. A set-aside, just so that everybody's clear on the definition, set-aside is I am going to take a project or a percentage, and it absolutely has to be met by that particular group. We cannot legally do that for minority women-owned businesses, even with the disparity study. That would require the federal government to do so. The state is able to do it because the feds have okayed a veterans program, but the feds have not okayed a set-aside for minority women-owned businesses. You're welcome. Other questions?
Chris, you kind of mentioned about a cost involved, right, for disparity study to be accomplished. Is that something that could be met with grants that you're aware of? That if an entity, an organization, a city wanted to be able to research how to get that accomplished, do you know of grants? Is that a viable way to approach it?
I do not know that answer, but I will say that there are a lot of foundations that are always working on servicing and trying to level the playing field, both educationally and employment-wise. There might be some that would possibly do that for a local community who is having difficulty in finding those dollars to do a disparity study. But as I said, the least expensive way to do it, since our local economy is the state of Colorado, our local market is the state of Colorado, is to tag on to a disparity study that's already been, a recent one that's been done, and then all you have to do is your own analysis for your local market. Yes, sir.
Oh, we already answered this question, but where would you find the disparity studies? How would you find it to apply for one?
So if you're looking for the disparity studies done by the City and County of Denver, it would be on the city's website, denvergov.org, Office of Economic Development, and it would be in the small business section, and they would have the current, and it's not posted, the current one's not posted yet because they're just releasing it, but the old one from 2011 is out there.
You'd given some salary statistics. Was that specific to El Paso County? Was that state? Was that Denver?
That was state.
That's statewide. Okay.
Emmy Archuleta with Archuleta Paint Solutions. Now, when you're saying the local market is all of Colorado, so then if we're just trying to target a specific city, do they do a diversity study in a specific city, or is it kind of washed out based on the entire state?
Good question. So when a disparity study is done, they can break it down by local markets. And I should have mentioned that. So Denver, we knew how many businesses are in Denver, how many are in the metropolitan area. But when we are considering the marketplace and all available firms to establish a goal, we have to use the local market, which is the state of Colorado. Yes, sir.
I own a small business. And my question was, I think you were speaking a lot about construction industry, and that's great. What are some of the representation by minority-owned businesses in other industries? Which one are the least represented? Do you have any idea?
I do not know that, but I do. Let me, before I answer that question, what industry are you in?
I'm in technology.
You're in technology. So technology can and is many times part of the construction world. And so that's why when I was trying to explain earlier that when construction does well, majority of all small businesses do well, and I tried to explain some of the others, technology is one of those. Technology also falls under goods and services under that disparity study. So there could be opportunities there if the state should pursue goods and services in their disparity study. If no further questions, thank you. And I'll be here all afternoon if you should have some individual questions. If you are seeking certification and need some advice or want to know how to get started, I'm with the HCC table. My business card is over there. Pick that up, give me a call. I've helped many firms on my own time, help them, guide them through the certification process, as well as through contracting opportunities if some should exist. So thank you, appreciate it.
Well, I bet everybody's ready to take a break, but we only have about 45 more minutes to sit through my remarks here, so. No, they'll be very short, because I know you're ready to do some networking, which is always very important at these types of events, and continue on to the breakout sessions that'll begin at 1:30. But wanted to recognize some more of our distinguished guests in the audience today. Karen Gerwitz, who's the president and CEO of the World Trade Center Denver. Ruth Rodriguez, who's the Denver Commerce Hub liaison. One of our rock stars in the Colorado Springs community, Lola Wallach, our CEO of the Southern Colorado Women's Chamber. Rodney Galat, president of the Black Business Network. And then we also like to thank the El Paso County Public Information Office for videotaping our event today. But just would like to make some short closing comments before we break for networking and the breakout sessions. You know, the theme this year is winning through inclusion. So as you hear through many industries, they talk a lot about diversity and inclusion. But I think, as Chris mentioned, we're at a very opportune time to really make that change and disrupt that status quo that we see. I think a lot of companies, organizations, city officials give diversity, inclusion, what we'd call maybe some lip service, but then when we go to practice it, it's not fully implemented. So I think our team, which is this entire audience today, has a unique opportunity to be the advocates for that change. So I think it's an opportune time for our team that's sitting in here. When we have the opportunity to have a seat at the table, we need to take advantage of that. There are many important players throughout Colorado, specifically in the Colorado Springs community, that drive the change within our community. And as advocates, we need to be out there in the forefront to make that change. As an example is when that door of opportunity opens for us, we need to have the courage to walk through that door and advance the change within our community of making our community more diverse and inclusive, not only in how contracts are awarded, how businesses grow, but having the seat at the tables on advisory councils, board of directors, to show that there's inclusion within our community, because believe it or not, many of those committees, advisory councils, board of directors drive the change within our community. So when that opportunity lends itself, we need to be willing to step through that door and take advantage of it, because it's going to help our community grow. I believe all of us in here can develop partnerships. As a retired Air Force veteran, we talk about force multipliers. So if we're working together as partners, we're going to make our community grow and be a better community. So I'd leave you with those remarks. Let's disrupt the status quo as we move forward after today and start to be advocates for small business, minority-owned businesses, and make our community grow for the betterment of Colorado Springs. So with that, it's time to do some networking, get another cup of coffee, and then we'll break out into those networking sessions. You have your agenda, and take advantage of the resources that are made available to you today. Thank you, and have a great rest of the day.